if you're not a fan of people who put umbrellas up indoors or it's going to freak you out, this won't be the video for you. But it's here to serve a point, which we'll get to. Now, if you're part of a side of us that just wants everyone to be okay, to be as happy as you can be and to be as free as you can be and to think whatever you want, really, as long as you accord me the same respect. I'll leave you alone if you leave me alone. You think whatever you want, it's perfect. I'll even help you. I'll celebrate you. I'll pick you up if you fall. But don't expect me to believe the same shit as you believe, and don't expect me to think the same crap that you think. But I'm thrilled that you think different to me, right? That kind of people. That's our side. Now, the other side have this weird checklist approach, and you'll see it all the time. If you are part of the weirdo left, you have to be a climate cultist, right? You have to be pro-Palestine. You have to be anti-Israel. You must be boycotting mangoes. You must be a fan of Greta. And then you just throw in another subject, trans. Okay, you have to be pro-trans in all spaces at all times. Okay, you've got to agree with that. Now let's think of another subject, right? Equality. Oh, women are undervalued and women don't have a chance. And Black Lives Matter. Right, you've got to be Black Lives Matter. You must be kneeling as well as clapping at the sky. There's just like this list of prescribed thoughts that you have to have. And many of us want nothing to do with that. But that side, the extremists, the cultists, the prescribed thinking lot, are very good at holding the line. They are very, very good at working together. And they are very good at points of disagreement, of just being quiet. What we are dreadful at on our side, the side that wants you to think whatever you want, be whatever you want, be as happy and as free as you can be, disagree with me all you want, perfect, I applaud you. What we're bad at is holding the line. And one of the points, the artistry of this, is sometimes shutting up is the right thing to do. Now, I know you can sit there and say, oh, well, that's all very well to say, Hopkins, you gobby old trout. I don't see you shutting up anytime soon. You're always gobbing off. Look at you now, gobbing off again. Pot kettle. Right, okay, yeah, I hear you. I've seen that. I get it. Feedback taken. But it's a curious thing that our side feels the need to assert their point at all times, to override or try and push down others. And I would encourage people on our side, sometimes shut up or work carefully to think about how you could say things in a much better way. Let's take two examples, shall we? Let's take Richard Tice criticising Tommy Robinson and then using the words his lot. Now, any time of day, I can tell you, you use that phrase, Tommy and his lot. Oh, that will be on Twitter forever. People say, well, that twat Tice, his lot. Oh, we're not good enough for you. We're the ones that got you elected. Tommy was the one that helped reform. If it wasn't for Tommy and his lot, you'd be nowhere. It's just there for the taking. It's like a ripe fruit. You say Tommy and his lot, there's a big old crowd that are going to go, rah, 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 rah. All you have to say, Richard, and reform is, I think there is an opportunity for us to work together in parallel. Right? So Richard Tice, practice this, darling. Listen, don't drag me into specific individuals. Clearly, we're a broad church. Reform and its MPs have a certain job to do. And others who also support freedom, who also are pro-freedom of speech, who have helped reform get elected, they're also part of our broad church. But we have to focus on our MPs. We have to focus on what reform's about. Reform is here to create a political party that can have political power. That's all you had to do. It's as simple as that. At no point did you have to be dragged down by GB News into slagging off Tommy and his lot. All you had to do was focus on the positive things about reform and repeat. It's simple, it's basic PR, it's basic comms, and you need to get your ass to training, Richard Tice. And I am happy to train you. I would school you, actually. That's a separate thing. On another example, let's say, for example, you're not going to turn up to something that you were going to, or let's say for reasons that you have, you're not going to do something. The really best way to handle that is to be private about it and have private discussions with people you need to. What we don't have to do is to go onto Twitter and start blasting off stuff in the heat of the moment that probably isn't helpful as a whole, because we're trying to work as a cohesive whole. And one of the traps that's happened is we've fallen into a trap of thinking for a discussion to happen, it has to be on Twitter. That's not true. It's like for an act of kindness to happen, young people think it has to be on Instagram. So they're setting up cameras before they do the act of kindness so that you can see them doing the act of kindness, so that you get emotional about the act of kindness and support them or follow them or they get clicks. It's very fraudulent. Acts of kindness were always something that was private. Voting intentions actually were always something that was private. But conversations can be private. I wouldn't want to imagine how many conversations I've had in private, because they're better there. Or, for example, turning up at a reform rally just to applaud the audience, not asking to be invited, having to buy my ticket, get myself there, be not acknowledged by any of the seniors, but to be part of the crowd. That seems to me a job that many of us can have as leaders in some way of our broad church. And I'm not here to preach, I'm just offering a thought. And this is where this comes in. So if you're a bit frightened about umbrellas indoors, do look away now. Ugh, I'm just going to garrot myself. But the umbrella can be very helpful. And look at mine, because it has an excellent, this is for when I'm trying to go out and about. If you ever see a cat walking down the street like that, please know I'm underneath it. I've given away one of my excellent disguises. But sometimes this is how we need to see ourselves, right? As an umbrella. This umbrella is actually a perfect analogy because it keeps the rain out and lets the sunlight in. And that's actually how I see my little role in our merry band of warriors. You know, it's easy to talk about the rain and the inclement weather, but how much better to be the umbrella that lets that rain rush off you and lets the sunlight in. And that's what I try and do with my shows. But that wasn't the point of the umbrella, actually. The point is, try and see our side of people who just want everyone to be okay. Like this, like an umbrella. It can be your job to just let the sunlight in, but see it as a broad church. See it as something we're all trying to fit under together. And if you think about how you walk with someone under an umbrella, maybe a boyfriend or a girlfriend or a child or all of your children all at once, all 5 of us under here. We walk much better under the umbrella when we walk in step. And actually it's something I've always felt. I've always known who's my people, my person, because when you walk together, there's a rhythm to how you walk easily together. Whereas when you walk with someone who isn't you can jar because your steps are wrong and the step pacing is wrong and all that stuff. That's probably an autistic thing with me. But see our side as this umbrella and we're trying to walk under it together. And the more we walk in step with each other, not in our opinions, but just supporting each other. And sometimes maybe that will mean we walk quietly, because perhaps we don't quite fit at that moment, or what we feel in that moment isn't quite right, or we're not really going to add to the harmony under this thing. So maybe we hold our tongue for a moment. And maybe sometimes we do have something to say, but we need to say it in a way that adds to the way we can all get under this umbrella together. How do we best fit in under this umbrella together? Not by changing anything we think or believe or anything in our hearts, even if it's massively way left field or right field. How do we move under the umbrella so that we can all fit? And believe me, this umbrella is a ridiculous size. Our umbrella is huge. New Zealand, Australia are under here. We're under here. People who never ever, people who hated me a few years back are under here. Like, this umbrella is massive. It's the broadest church, and that's what we want to be. We don't want to be a prescribed list of things you have to believe in order to fit. I must think this. I must think this on Palestine. I must boycott mangoes. I must knit my own Birkenstocks. I must own a Tesla. I must believe that trans men are actually women. No. Think what you want, but when we're out and about, let's try and be a broad church walking together comfortably under our shared umbrella. Okay, my darlings. And for those who want to write on this, you still look like a horse, no problem. For those who want to write, you look like a melted wheelie bin face, that's fine. That's basic level stuff. For those who want to write, well, you patronising twat, there's no need to be a patronising twat. I think that's fair. Elements of that probably did sound patronising. And for those who want to say, well, you're known for gobbing off, look at you with your court cases, I think that's fair as well. But I would say, and not to counter that, but just to add to that conversation, I can't begin to explain, nor would I, nor do I need to. But if you imagine the amount of things I need to let go in order to be positive and part of being under the umbrella, if you imagine the amount of personal slights I've had to get over, or people who said or wrote or publicised or got clicks off of things about me in the past that I need to just leave behind as part of the past, you'll see why it's important for me as well to try and do the things that I've just been explaining. I hope it was helpful. I wish everybody, from Farage to Tice to anyone else under the umbrella, all the very best. It is very important at this time of pressure not to turn in on ourselves and start fighting each other, right? Because that is the easiest thing in the world. Pressure makes people turn in on themselves and start fighting. Look at your own family and what happens when you're under pressure. You start fighting the person next to you. We have to try and hold the line. Remember, we're a broad church. And really, the strength is in that ability. Look at the NHS, 100,000. If you hold the line, we win. Do remember, you are not alone. We are many, and we are stronger together. And if you're smiling, it really annoys the miserable bastards. Go on, keep going.